All right. Just to preface this, just due to the space and like my recording abilities right now, I'm just recording this in my room. And ideally, I would have a whiteboard, but and most of this stuff would be up on the whiteboard, but I just kind of had to make do with what I had. So just wanted to tell you that normally I'd be like standing and like engaged, but like if I stand, then I'm like really weirdly in frame. So yeah, this is just what's gonna have to do. Awesome. Okay. Good morning, class. And then they respond, "Good morning, Mr. Luhano." Oh, how are you all doing today? Have you had a good day? Awesome. All right, well, let's just go ahead and get started for today, and let's just look at our I can statements on the board, and let's see what they say. I can summarize text in my own words and identify two main ideas from the text. So you know what that means, what we're doing today? That means that we're going to move on to our next composer of the month. Super exciting! Last month we talked about Johann Sebastian Bach, which is a very famous composer from the Baroque era. Today we're going to be talking about Thelonious Monk. A little jump in history, but I'm going to pass out this handout and worksheet for all of you to read, and we'll get started. And then I would hand it out to them. And then... All right, before we dig into this text, now we did this last month with Johann Sebastian Bach with a couple of words. We're going to do the same thing today, except we have a few new different categories. It's going to be a little different. So we're going to do our vocabulary predictions for the text and see if we can guess what the vocab words are associated with. So let's just talk about our categories for a little bit. Music terms, this should look very, very similar. Music terms are anything that relates to music. So who could give us some music terms that we had on our last composer? Fugue, that's right. Fugue is a music term. Baroque, that is also a music term. It's a style of music. Wow, you guys have some great memories. All right, critic words. So this is a new one. So critic words, what I was going for here was for critic words to be any words that that someone outside looking in could use to describe the music. Because remember, we're all music critics here. We all listen to music and we all have certain feelings about the music. So awesome. So keep that in mind for that. Conflict words. Now these words are specifically words that could cause trouble for someone trying to do something. You know, so just keep that in mind. Once again, unknown words, totally okay if you have to use the unknown words in your groups if you just have no idea what a word means. But if you can make even a little educated guess, that's what we're going for here. All right, so just really use that as a last resort. All right, so let's do a couple together. And I'm just going to have to lay this on the ground because otherwise I would just not do that. Teacher hat off. This is me explaining what's going on. So I would have different colored sticky notes for each group. There would be, depending on the number of students, like 4 or 5 groups with like 3 to 5 students in each group. And then they would use their different colored sticky notes, and then that way I can easily identify what group put up what words for whatever. So back on. All right, so we're going to be doing some of these vocabulary predictions together. So our first word is scrutinize. Does anybody know what this word means? And then we would like call around if nobody knew what it means. All right, well let's analyze it a little bit. Let's break it down. All right. So I'm sure we've talked about analysis before in class, and looking at scores and recognizing what they mean. So to analyze something is to like look at it really closely. It's kind of the same thing as scrutinize. So who has an idea of where they should go? And then the correct answer is music terms, because I just related it to form analysis. Sweet. All right, our next word is, can anyone say this word for me? It's, I don't know if you can see it, it's poverty. So then we would go around and, if no one can't say it, I would be like, okay, let's break it down. Poverty, yes. Awesome. So this means poverty means just if someone is really doesn't have a lot of money and is really poor. So does anyone have an idea of what category of word this would fit in? And then conflict words, because it's hard to do things when you're poor. So woohoo. Awesome, you guys are doing very, very well. All right, what about this word? Can anyone say this for me? It's imprecise. All right, so this word has a special thing. It's called a prefix. Can anybody split this word in two so that we have a prefix that doesn't quite make sense, but then another word afterwards? And then it's the im is the prefix for the precise, imprecise. So it means opposite that. So when I'm just kind of like, teacher hat up, when I'm just kind of like gesturing that's like, oh, students are going to talk here and we're going to have a conversation about this and all that. It's kind of hard to emulate just when I'm talking with myself. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So very good, class. So do we have any idea of what category this would fit in? Imprecise? And then hopefully they will say, talk about like how we talked about. Ideally we would have had like an anticipatory set about talking like an introduction to jazz before this, and how there's a lot of like imprecise like rhythms and like syncopation and stuff like that. So that's right, it's a music term. Congratulations. And I don't know, here, I'll just hold it up just so you can see what's going on. So then these are just like categorized into these categories. And I forgot to put the I can statements when I first wrote on this, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, and once again, ideally this would be on the board, but we kind of have to make it do. All right, our last word that we're going to do together, and then you're on your own. Let's talk about this vocabulary term. All right, can anyone tell me what this means? It says chord progressions. And normally these, like I said, these would be on like, the ones that I would have would be like printed out and look nice, but I just don't have a lot of printing money right now. So I'm actually $6 in the hole, actually, but that's okay. And then with a different colored sticky notes also, so that they could write as well, so that'd be good. Chord progressions. Yes, that is another music term. Congratulations, because we talk about chord progressions all the time. 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. Yes. And now I'm going to turn it over to your groups to discuss the rest of the vocab terms. So then we would kind of like fast forward. Here's the rest of them. I'm just going to place them. We have innovation. That is supposed to be a critic word, although that it has possibility of going into the unknown words category for them. Gig, that's a music term. Pianist, that's another music term. Prolific, that's a critic word, although that one also has possibility to go into the unknown word category. And as the unknown words sort of pop up, we would sort of discuss them as a class, because more than likely, like the way I would divide the groups is I would kind of like spread like my better readers and better learners along with my like struggling learners. So it would be sort of like a spread the wealth type of deal with the group. So I wouldn't have like one group that's obviously more successful and then another group that struggled a little bit more. I would sort of like even that out. So notoriety, that's a critic word. Temperament, that is a conflict word, which once again has the possibility to be an unknown word. Imitate, musical term. We talked about imitation a lot when we talked about fugues with Johann Sebastian Bach. Arpeggios, that is another music term. Difficult, that's a conflict word. Yay! You guys are flying through these. Idiosyncratic, that one will probably most definitely be an unknown word. But we would talk about like synchronization, and then is sort of like the root of that word, and then idiom is like, and then the beginning part kind of sounds like idiom, which is a part of speech that they should have been, or not a part of speech, but it's like a literary term that they should have been introduced to talk about that. To just sort of link the two together is just like referring to something, or like a characterization of, or like a character trait, or sort of like a calling card of somebody. So that's supposed to be a music term, yay! And then depression is a conflict word. Amazing. Wow! The whole class did awesome. You had no unknown words whatsoever. And I would just call it up. I would spend like maybe 5-10 minutes on this, and as the groups were talking, I would walk around the room to just sort of informally assess them and help them out with any questions that they need. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, sorry, my things fell asleep here. All right, class, we did that activity super well. I'm very proud of you. Wow. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the reading. So we're going to do the first paragraph together, and then we're going to keep in our groups and keep working. So before we read, let's read the title, yeah? And kind of like just get a layout of like what this looks like. So we have a picture of Thelonious Monk up here in the top corner. With his hat and his shades, with his piano. He looks pretty cool. And the title, Jazz Greats, Thelonious Monk. So, does anybody, before we read, and then we would have done this last month as well with the Johann Sebastian Bach one, because this is one of the strategies they want to use continuing is the KWL. All right, everyone, let's review what our little columns mean. So, can anyone remind me what the K means? Yes, Johnny. It means what we already know. Yes, it does, Johnny. Congratulations. What about the W column? Yeah, Suzanne. It means what we want to know and we fill it out during the reading. That's exactly right, Suzanne. Now, what about this far right column for you guys? What does that mean? Yeah, dude. I ran out of names. Sorry. It's what we learned after we read the article. Yes, congratulations. That's exactly right. And once again, this would be on the whiteboard, but like I don't have a whiteboard, so doing my best. All right. So before we get started, let's talk about what we know. Does anyone know has anyone ever heard of Thelonious Monk? And then probably not, I'm guessing. So then, oh wow. So he's a pretty unknown composer. This should be really, really interesting. All right. So what do we know? Let's look at more of some context clues, right? So let's look at that picture, right? Like if you were to guess his instrument, what instrument would he play? Do you think? Then they should probably say piano, because he's at a piano. So that's right. So Thelonious Monk plays a piano, and then whoever said that, I would have them fill out a sticky note and then put it in this column, which would theoretically be bigger because it'd be an entire whiteboard, big, long, but that's okay. And then we talk about like the title, oh, jazz. Like, what do we know about jazz? Oh, it has lots of syncopation. It has some funky chord progressions. It has a lot of improvisation. All this stuff that would have been that we would have talked about in introducing this on the music side of things. So just kind of fill that out. All right. So now we're going to read the first paragraph. And remember, as we're reading, we're using our post-it note, our post-it response notes, and then just putting it right in the text. And with any thoughts, questions, predictions, connections that we can make as we're reading this. So And if somebody has a connection, raise your hand, and then I'll call on a couple people as we're reading, to just sort of talk about those connections and just talk about it as a class and just sort of demonstrate what you guys are going to be doing once I let you guys go off into your own groups. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Thelonious Monk was one of the creators of the music known as modern jazz. Monk was born in 1917 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Around the age of 5, he began to imitate tunes he heard on the family's piano. Yes, Johnny, you have your hand up. What's wrong? Imitate is one of our vocab words, Mr. Lujano. You're exactly right. Wow, how interesting is that? Everyone make sure to write that down on your post-it note and just put it right into the text. All right, lost my place. There it is. When the family moved to New York, young Thelonious's mother scraped together the money for a baby grand piano. Yes, Karen, my family went on a trip to New York once. Wow, that's very exciting. Thelonious moved to New York as well, so you have that connection with him. Make sure you write that down. Has anyone else ever been to New York? I haven't been to New York, but I've heard it's very, very great. All right, let's keep reading. Now a single mother, she had little extra money, but she managed to pay for the piano lessons Monk began taking at age 11. Yes, Johnny, we have a lot of things today, Johnny. I also take piano lessons. That's so great. What an awesome connection. Make sure you write that down. A serious student, Monk watched other pianists play to scrutinize their playing. Oh, lots of hands. Gerald. Pianist is one of our vocab words. That's exactly right, Gerald. And Susie, scrutinize is one of our vocab words. You're exactly right, Susie. Does anybody else have any things? Now let's revisit this want to know category. We're going to stop after each paragraph and just sort of fill out over here. So does anyone want to know anything about what we've read so far? And then maybe they'd say like, why did he move to New York? And it's just like, oh, that's a great question. We could put that in the want to know category about how he went to New York. What did his mom do for a job? That's a great question. You know, I'm not exactly sure. So let's put that in our want to know category. What pianist did Thelonious Monk observe? And oh yeah, so then we just fill this up, and they'd fill out their post-it notes. And then after that, it'd be like, all right, class, we did the first paragraph together. So now I'm going to hand the reins over to your group. So meet with your groups and discuss what's going to happen next, and we will meet back together. Just go over the second paragraph, and then we'll reconvene as a class in about 5 to 7 minutes. So go ahead and start reading with your group and discussing. Remember to fill out your post-it note responses within the text, and then also think about the want to know section for our KWLs. So yeah, and then we would do that for the remainder of the reading, which is about 5 small paragraphs. It's just under a page long. And then once that is all completed, then we would come back together and it's like, all right, class, what did we learn about Thelonious Monk? Can anybody get us started? And then hopefully they would say, and then this would be also part of their I can stuff. So then they would be able to summarize the text saying like, oh, Thelonious Monk was a jazz musician from North Carolina, and he wrote his first solo album, Pure Monk, in 1954, and it sold pretty well. And they would talk about his idiosyncrasies, or kind of his style as a pianist, which is like sort of imprecise, like rhythms, startling, like sort of big arpeggios, and just sort of like weird chord progressions. And some of the chords he would play sounded like literally like he was playing with his forearms and his elbows on the piano. It's super cool. All right, class, we made it through the reading. Congratulations. Now we're going to work on the worksheets on our own, and we're basically just filling out exactly what we talked about in class. So let's see if you can remember all the stuff that we talked about. You'll have your reading to look back to, and just fill out these worksheets. And in our last 7 minutes, and make sure you put them in your portfolios along with your post-it annotations. And I have all of your sticky notes up here that I will keep, and also put your vocabulary predictions in there. And yeah, that's it. That's the lesson. Hopefully it would take around 45 minutes to an hour. Looking at my time here, I did spend a lot of time like explaining what we would be doing. So hopefully that like from a teacher's perspective, I was explaining. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thanks. Bye.